Okay, let's go forward. Right. Now, the first step is what you've got to understand. So there's a lot of learning on this course that might change the way you think. So all I'm going to ask you is keep an open mind. Right? The first thing I want you to understand when we look and work with dogs is that the fact that we are human beings and our dogs are a whole different species. Now, I know many of us will say, my dog is my baby, my Jan, my son, my daughter. I know a lot of people today say, my furry kids. We don't even say they're dogs sometimes. Today, sometimes even on social media, somebody says, don't call them dogs. I'm like, what do you call them? They're dogs only. No, say furry babies. So I get that. Today, the world has changed from what it was earlier, where we said, people are dog owners. Now we say people are pet parents because otherwise it offends people. So here's the thing. I get you want to say my son, my daughter, say it. But today onwards, when you are trying to understand your dog, when you're trying to see into their mind, understand what they're trying to say to you, it is imperative you don't see them as furry humans and you see them for what they are, which is dogs, a whole different species. They think differently from us, they behave differently from us. And one of the main problems, I've been doing this work for 30 years. One of the main problems I've seen, everybody who's come and sat in front of me has seen their dogs at some point as kind of extension of a human being. And so it becomes, oh, he did this behavior because of this. So I have to explain, no, this that he's doing is for another reason, which is a doggy reason. The way you are looking at it is from the human standpoint. And there is a word for this. It's a fancy word called anthropomorphism. Okay, anthropomorphism basically means attributing human tendencies to an animal. And on this course, we're going to break that down. You've got to see, and this picture is something I love because really the way we look at the world as a human being and the way the dog looks at the world are completely separate roads. And if you want to be successful, whether it is understanding your dog, understanding, say, another dog's behavior, understanding why a dog does what he does, then you've got to stop thinking like a human being. And for heaven's sakes, please start thinking like a dog, because then things will become so much more clearer. And as we go forward on this course, I'm going to teach you that. I'm going to say, is this how you would have thought about it? And everybody goes, yes, I think my dog's getting revenge. I think my dog's being jealous. I think my dog doesn't like this. And I say, that's the human way of looking at it. Now, when a dog thinks, it's very simple. All their behaviors are based in survival, and it is a very different roadmap. And if you want success with your dog or your problems with your dog, then this is how you have to think. Okay, how do we work? Sorry about that. How do we work? We don't sit down and do mental telepathy. There are people who do that. It's not what I do. I just have no skills in mental telepathy whatsoever. The way I work is in the science of psychology. So everything that we do is not something that I've made up on my own. It is a proven process that is already working in the world. Okay, I just teach you what it already is. So we don't put the dog on the couch and say, was your mother cruel to you as a puppy? Is that why you're behaving like this with me? No, it doesn't work that way. And you learn on the course that dog behavior work is actually very simple, because dogs as animals are very simple animals. They think in very simple ways and very straightforward ways. Human beings, on the other hand, love to complicate issues. I have seen that repeatedly, and it gets very frustrating because I say, I know how you're trying to think is all this jumbled up way, and your dog is thinking in 3 steps. Can you stop and think in 3 steps? And once people do that, you see that a whole world changes. Okay, now the first thing we're going to learn today, and this is very important. Okay, we're going to learn a bit about how a dog learns. It's just a little bit of theory, so bear with me, but understand it, because from now, everybody who's already spoken to me, or you've not spoken to me, but you've got an issue, start thinking along these lines. The first thing we're going to look at is called innate behaviors. Innate behaviors are what we might call as inborn behaviors, pre-programmed behaviors, inherited behaviors, genetic behaviors, hardwired behavior. So it can go by many names. Now, what these behaviors basically are is we say these are behaviors rooted inside of the dog. The dog is born with them. Now, when we look at them, we say there are three things. And I want you to start thinking now about your dog's behaviors. And are any of these three already rooted into your dog? The first one, the fact that your dog is a dog, regardless of what your breed of dog is, whether it's a pedigree dog, whether it's a mixed breed dog, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that your dog is a dog. And go back to where dogs actually started, like from the evolution of wolves. A lot of those genetics are in your dog. And these are behaviors the dog is just born with, right? Chasing something, stalking, digging, barking. We say these are innate behaviors. Nobody teaches them as such. It's inborn into your dog. All dogs do this. Every dog will scratch when they have an itch. Every dog will vocalize maybe when upset. Every dog instinctively might stalk something. Every dog instinctively might dig. So we say instinctively, what we mean is these are innate behaviors. So that's one. The fact that your dog is a dog, he'll have certain behaviors. Two, the breed of your dog, whether your dog is a mixed breed or a pedigreed, or as in my case, I have a 10-year-old dog now. She came to me as a rescue at 8 months. Her name is Maya, and she's kind of like a Labrador. You look at her, you'll say she's a lab, but there's definitely something else inside her. So you could have what people might presume is a pedigree dog, but there could be a little mixture thrown in as well. It doesn't matter. Every part of your dog's breed will predetermine your dog to doing certain behaviors. And we'll cover some of them as we go forward. Okay, so the second thing that your dog kind of just has in him is the fact that what his breed predisposes him to do. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, I don't care about breeds and I get that. But when we work with dogs, it is very important to understand the breed, because that tells me then whether the dog is doing something that is inborn in him or not. And using that thought process, I can understand how to take this forward. And the third thing we'd look at is the parentage of the dog. The parents will determine what your dog is, not just in looks, but in behavior as well. For now, we do know genetically, aggression is passed down from the parents to the puppies. So if either of the parents of your dog, so I want you to start thinking where you got your dog from. Do you know, did you meet the parents, especially the mother? Did you get to see that if it was possible? Are any of them aggressive? Then there is a 99% chance all the puppies will turn out aggressive, which is why we typically tell people don't breed from aggressive dogs if you have one, because you're creating more aggression in this world. And we really don't want more biting dogs in this world. I think we've all seen the videos of biting dogs and where it's headed, and it's going down a horrible road. So we don't want more biting dogs. The dog pays the price for that. We now know separation anxiety has a genetic link. We know fears can have a genetic link. Can you see how many things now can be genetically predisposed? So that just makes it very hard. If you've got home a dog who's genetically got separation anxiety, everything you kind of do with that dog will be like swimming against the tide. Think of it, right? Because it's genetics. You can't change genetics. Just like I can't change what a dog looks like. So if my dog has black hair, he's going to have black hair. If I want him to have pink hair, I can paint him pink, but he's always going to have black hair. It's genetics. And that's the same thing you've got to understand. If it's a genetically imprinted behavior, you're not changing that. You can maybe try to work through it, but it's going to fight you every step, which is why when people go get a dog, we always say, please think 100 times. You don't want to end up, as especially like a first-time pet parent with a dog where you're now struggling. A dog should bring happiness into your life. Okay, so innate behaviors are what we look at. And to understand this a bit better, let's look at some of the breeds that we've got. Now, if you look at, when we look at dog breeds, there are over 1,000 dog breeds. It's difficult to really cover all. But what, if you look at the kennel clubs, what they have done is they have taken breeds, and based on the purpose that they were bred for, they've kind of clubbed them into groups. Now, what you've got to understand, I heard a lot of people have Cocker Spaniel here, somebody has a Golden Retriever. These dogs were created maybe over a few hundred years ago. When they were created, whoever created that dog took a mixture of different dogs to create this breed. And this breed was created for a certain purpose, to do a certain job. What concerns us is what job that dog was created to do, because that same genetics is in your dog today. If you have a Labrador, then the very genetics that was created in him to do a certain job is yet in your Labrador. So some of you said, how do I mentally exercise my dog? Well, the first thing is look at your dog's breed. We always work with a breed, not against it. Keep that in mind, guys. So let's take a look at gun dogs. Okay, these dogs include your Golden Retrievers, Labradors, Cocker Spaniels, Weimaraners, Vizslas, Pointers, all of these breeds. Now, all of these breeds, as you should know, have great retrieving abilities. They're extremely obedient because they were taught to do that, right? It was a dog created where man said, listen, I want a dog that will work alongside me, take commands from me, and do what I say. So, which is why typically you'll see people with most of these breeds will say these dogs are pretty obedient by and large. So, look at the gun dog breeds. Next, we look at the hounds. Okay, now in the hound category, and this is important, you have the sight hounds and the scent hounds. The sight hounds are your tall dogs. We have some beautiful ones in our own country, the Salukis, the Mudhol hounds, the Pashmi hounds. And you look at the structure, you see the tall dog in the picture, very thin legs. That's how they're supposed to look. It's not an underfed dog. Okay, that's how it's supposed to look. Now, these dogs hunt by sight. That's why they're called sight hounds. They're taken out at twilight by the hunter. And the dog at twilight will see whatever's running along the horizon, give chase. So they love running. They absolutely love running. And they can run like gazelles. They're graceful. They're beautiful with their long legs. Then when they catch whatever it is, like say a hare, they'll catch it at the back of its neck, shake, kill the animal, and then leave it there. Then the hunter takes it off. That's how these dogs work. And then you have the scent hounds. These include your beagles, your basset hounds, all the dogs that are short, low to the ground. You'll typically see they have long, floppy ears. And there is a belief that the long ears funnel the smell into their nose, kind of make it like a funnel so the nose takes the smell better. Okay. Now, these dogs, I don't know if anyone has a beagle, and beagles are still very popular and were very popular a couple of years ago. Now, understand this dog. Now, what I'm telling you is genetically pre-programmed. Okay, so somebody says, okay, get me a beagle without all this. I'll say, then it's not a beagle. It's not a beagle if it doesn't have this. This is how it works. Now, these dogs were kept in large groups. Okay, they'd stay in a large little contained area. And these were taken out for a hunt. And the hunter would come and he'd blow like a horn. And they'd get very excited. And then whatever the poor animal they were hunting, like the fox or whatever, was on the run, and these dogs were left. They never worked alongside man. They were left. So understand these words. These dogs had to be clever because they're hunting an animal as clever as a fox. They had to be resilient, not give up no matter what the fox does. Do it on their own, which means don't take any commands from man. You have to do your own thing. Never come back when called, because that's not part of what you were trained to do. You were trained to keep going till you found that animal. You kind of held it while it hid in a hole, and then the hunter would come and take over. So you hear these words again: clever, obstinate enough to stay the course, not give up no matter what. Do not take commands from man. Do not come back when called. Do your own thing. Now you see why so many people struggle with beagles. Okay, because these dogs, when you keep them and say, okay, listen to me, the beagle's going to say, but I was never bred to listen to man. I do things on my own. And then you take a beagle for a walk and you say, why is your nose to the ground? The beagle will say, that's what my ancestors were bred to do. I'm only doing what is genetically inside of me. And that is where sometimes the problem lies, where we tell people, please think before you bring home a dog. If you want a dog that listens to you, maybe you want a dog that works with you, then maybe a beagle may not be your best bet. They will do things on their own. right? What about the sight hounds? The sight hounds ideally should be kept where they belong, which is in the villages with their hunters. They don't belong in pet dog homes. Why? Because show me one pet dog home that can give the dog that kind of exercise it needs. It runs for a couple of 20, 30 kilometers a day. How many people in a city, in an apartment, can give the dog that? So typically in a Bombay flat, I might deter somebody from getting a Mudhol hound. I'd say, unless you're going to get up every day at 5, go to the race course, let your dog run the 20 kilometers. He is not going to be satisfied. Now, a lot of you mentioned earlier, how do I exercise my dog? How do I understand what kind of exercise to give my dog? What kind of games to play with my dog? The answer starts with your dog's breed. When you keep a certain breed, the first question I want to ask you is, can you give your dog the exercise he would need from the perspective of his breed? And that's something we have to think about. Okay, for example, if you have a Labrador, one of the things they absolutely love doing is swimming. I've known of so many Labradors that are 7 and 8 years old today, have never gone for a swim in their life. Do they get exercise? Yeah, 2 walks a day. But don't you think a part of that dog feels unsatisfied somewhere? And I'll tell you one thing, when they feel that little bit of dissatisfaction, like, I know I'm living a life and I know I get all the love and I get food, but I'm a Labrador. I just need that. I feel that in me. My genetics pull me towards that. And then typically what happens is we might see then the dog acts out on that because he can't get what we call as breed specific exercise. And we're going to cover that as we go forward. Something for you to start thinking about. Then we look at the guard dog breeds. So see, understand why we first work with that. If anybody was to call me, okay, to book a consult, or if you are reaching out to me, there are just 3, 4 things I will ask you on the phone. One, I want to know what breed of dog you have. Not because I'm judgmental, but the fact is, knowing your dog breed might tell me whether the behavior you're seeing is breed related or not, and it just changes the way I would work. If it's a breed related behavior, I'll work on this road. If it's not typical of your breed, I will change the road. So I want to know your dog's breed. Two, I want to know your dog's age. Is it an adult? How long has he carried out the behavior for? That tells me whether I'm going to be able to work with it, reverse it, or what method I have to use. Okay, so those are questions I would typically ask. I'd want to know and see why. Now let's look at these guard dog breeds. These dogs were bred to be possessive. Okay, whether you like it or not, at the age of 10 months, if you have a Rottweiler, if you have a Mastiff, if you have a Doberman, that dog is going to be possessive. He's going to be, no, it's mine, mine. Now, again, understanding the breed of dog, this is how we work even as trainers. Now, if somebody says, I have a Doberman puppy, what I'm going to say to myself is, I know if it's a Doberman, at 10 months, genetically, he's going to start acting up and be possessive. Knowing that, what I could do is teach him how to share. Share, share, and share. So that at 10 months, when that instinct to be possessive comes up, I have dulled it down. I can't remove it. Keep this in mind, for heaven's sakes. If somebody tells you, oh, I can cure a dog out of this. So say you have a German Shepherd and they say, I can cure his chasing behavior. I would be very careful. Why? Because chasing is genetically pre-programmed into the Shepherd. You can't take it out. So be careful if anybody uses the word cure, because that means I have to go into the dog's brain, take out that part, firstly find which part it is, take it out and shut it again. It's impossible. So we never say we cure these behaviors. We can redirect them. We can create a new focus. We can do something which I think most of you would be interested to learn called CER training, a conditioned emotion response. We can do all of that. But all I keep telling people that I work with is, his instinctive behavior, I haven't removed it. It is there. We've just created a new road on top, and we have taught your dog to take this road and to hopefully leave behind this road. But I can never remove this road. Keep in mind, guys, you never remove behavior patterns. They will stay. You create a new one, make it stronger, and hope your dog takes the new one. So if any of you have said, oh, I joined this course to get a cure, listen, we'll find you help, but Don't say cure. All right, that's all. So with guard dog breeds, you can't change that, right? They're going to be that. They're going to play rough and tough games. So teaching a leave command, teaching sharing games, teaching the dog to play nicely, not to push you physically with his paws, is something we do by knowing the dog's breed. So we do a lot of preventive work as well in the world of dog behavior. For those of you who are interested, okay, in genetics, I don't know if you are and you're thinking this is going too far into science, but if some of you are interested, we do have a podcast channel, and one of my students, Lena, her name is Lena Ukil, UKIL. She has done some excellent podcasts with us on genetics and the role they play in your dog's behavior. It's very fascinating learning. If you're interested, put it on the WhatsApp group and I'm happy to send you the link for you to listen to when and as you'd like to. But it's very interesting talk on genetics. Okay, and just to give you a small idea of the learning, most of you know genetics is like a DNA strand, and every strand has a certain set code to it as such, just to keep it easy language to understand. And each code follows a certain set pattern. And the pattern we see in the world of dogs is something similar. So one of the patterns that we might see is if you have a young dog and that has fear issues at a young age, we know by studying genetics and studying how the DNA works, you know that if your dog has fear issues at a very young age, he is likely going to have separation anxiety at a slightly older age, partly because that genetic code and separation anxiety genetic code kind of go together. Now, by seeing that, especially for us as trainers or behaviorists, we need to know that, because if I see that in a puppy, I have to quickly tell myself, if the puppy has got these characteristics, he is likely, I know what goes hand in hand. It's those characteristics, and then I can work to reducing those before they even come up. Okay, so it's just a thought process. Next, we look at the herding breeds, right? These are your chasing dogs, your Belgian Malinois, your German Shepherds, your Border Collies, your Corgis. These dogs love to chase. It's in their blood. So if somebody comes to me and says, my German Shepherd is chasing. Yeah, he's a German Shepherd. He's going to chase. That's what he does. And interestingly, people say, but I didn't want a chasing dog. Well, then maybe my thought process is you should have done a bit more research into this. Okay, so here's the thing. Can I take out the chase instinct from a German Shepherd? The answer is no, I cannot. Okay, but what I can do is I can teach that dog, chase a tennis ball, do not chase children. I can do that much. I cannot take out the chase behavior. So if you tell me, take it out, kill it in the dog, well, that's impossible, because every little cell in his body has that. So it's very interesting when people say, oh, bring your German Shepherd to me and I'll take it out of the dog. And I'm very curious to see, what are you going to do to take it out? How do you take out genetics? Okay, so I think there is only maybe one more Parsi other than me on this batch, but typically we'd say Parsi genetics will pre-program you maybe to a big nose, right? If you're a Parsi, like me or whatever, you're going to have a big nose. It's a Parsi thing. And now you say, take it out. I mean, unless I go for surgery or something, I'm not taking it out. You're a Parsi, you're going to have a big nose. It's as simple as that. Okay, so keep that in mind. You can't take these out of the dogs. Now, I want you to give a good thought and think, how many of your dog's behaviors could be inherited behaviors, could be genetic behaviors? I want you to put it into the chat box. Say, I have this breed and he shows this. Maybe it could be genetics, or put it up as a question and say, my dog is this, but he's doing this behavior. Now, let me give you an example. If you bring me a 10-month-old Doberman and you tell me he's become very possessive, I'm going to say, well, that's part of the breed. Okay, and I know how then to work on it. If you bring me a Labrador and say he's doing resource guarding, I'm going to say, hold on, that's not genetically programmed. It's not genetically implanted into the dog. Where did this dog learn it from? And then the way I would work on the dog would change. Okay, so I want you to put into the chat box, say what behaviors you struggle with, and then write down whether you think they could be genetic in your dog or maybe not. Keeping in mind, a lot of you said aggression. How many of you now think when you got your young puppy, he had aggression in him then only? Which means then we're working with genetics. There is a way to work with it. Remember, I never say the word to work against it. You can't, it's genetics. But you can work with it. There are ways we can still work around the situation. It's not a totally hopeless cause. So when people complain about German Shepherds, the number one complaint is, oh, my German Shepherd chases children. He chases cyclists. He chases people on skateboards. You'll never hear a German Shepherd chasing somebody old. Why? Because these dogs get excited by movement. They get excited. Old people don't move fast enough, so the dog couldn't care. But children, these dogs will chase. Okay, so keep that in mind. Next, we look at, so see, we've seen innate. Now we're looking at the next category called learned behaviors. Now, a learned behavior is something the dog learns through the course of life. This is not implanted in him. It is something he has learned. He can learn from his mother. He can learn from his littermates. He can learn from where he came from. He can learn from the environment, other dogs, you, your friends. It's learned. It can be learned from anywhere. So we typically say behaviors like pulling on the leash. How many of you struggle with pulling on the leash? Put your hands up if you do. Does your dog pull you on the leash? Does your dog beg for food? Fears can be inherited and fears can be learned. Jumping on people. How many of your dogs jump? Put it into the chat box. Yes, my dog jumps. I will read these chats after class all through. Okay, I will see who has what problem and try to help you out. Put everything into the chat box. Say, yes, my dog begs. Yes, my dog pulls on the leash. Yes, my dog is frightened. This is a dog frightened at the vet clinic. Yes, my dog jumps on people. My dog mouths me. All attention-seeking behaviors, something we're going to learn on this course, are learned behaviors. So we'd say learned behaviors are something the dog learns somehow through the course of life. Now, typically the theory is if your dog can learn it, he can unlearn it. But it comes with a caveat. And here's the caveat. The first thing I want to know, and this is something I'd ask you just on the phone, even before you booked a consult, is the age of your dog, right? Because the age matters. Let me explain to you. Supposing now I bite my nails and say I've been biting my nails for the last 20 years. How easy do you think it would be for me to stop biting my nails if I've done it for 20 years? Quite hard, right? Because it's become a habit. Now I have a child who is maybe just 4 years old, and he started biting his nails for the past 2 months. How easy do you think I can remove that? Much easier. So what we see is how long was the behavior for? What is the duration? Sometimes people tell me, oh, my dog's been doing this for 4 years. Can you change it? Well, maybe in theory, yes, but practically it's going to take a bit of time, right? I mean, if your dog's done something for 4 years, he's not going to change it in 4 days. You've got to be patient then and work through the process. But if you have an adult dog, like say a 4-year-old dog, and you tell me he's only done this for 2 months, then the chances of me changing the behavior are much faster. Okay, so when we say learned behaviors, I want to know the age of the dog. I want to know the duration of the behavior, because that tells me, can we change it or can we not change it? So see, typically when people call me now, the first few things I ask is, what is the breed of your dog? And if you say, oh, it's an indie and I don't know, maybe some cross, then I know I have to work with whatever I can work with within the dog. Even though it's an indie dog, he will have certain breed traits in him, right? Maybe the pariah dog traits, maybe a bit of a Mudhol hound trait, maybe a cross with a Labrador thrown in, God knows. How do we find those answers? Of course, today there are these DNA kits which you can use. But my suggestion typically is play games with your dogs. That's it, play games. The games will tell you who your dog is. And this is what I want you to do. If you want my help with your dog, I will ask you to play different games with your dogs. And based on those answers, and my question is, and put this in the chat box for me, what game lights up your dog? What game lights up your dog? So let me give you my example. Okay, my dog Maya, she's typically what we'd say is a Labrador. She loves fetch. My God, if you make the mistake of throwing a toy for her, she'll play that game all day long. So by watching that, I know she definitely has some retriever blood in her. And completely by mistake, we learned with her that she loves playing football. She'll become like a herding breed. If you kick a football or you start, she'll like stalk. And I'm like, Maya, you're a Labrador. Where's this come from? And she'd be like, I love this game and I love this. And she goes into that zone like a shepherd would. Okay. And I say, well, somewhere down the road, you have some maybe blood of some stalking dog inside of you. Okay. How do we know these answers is only by playing games. So put it in the chat box. What game lights up your dog? And if you tell me my dog doesn't play, then we've got to get your dog to start playing with you. That's one of the first relationship building exercises we'll do. And I'll cover that on the course because I think a lot of you say, I want to understand dogs. I want to understand what they're saying. I want to stop this issue. I want everything you first have to do. This is the way I would work. If you brought your dog to me, my first step is repair your relationship with your dog. If it's not repaired, nothing you do is going to work. Everything will fall down. Think of it like the cracks of a hole. Everything you do, any training work you do, any behavior work you do will fall through a hole. First, repair your relationship. How do you repair a relationship with the dog? Play with your dog. I don't mean play for 1 hour a day. Play for 10 minutes. Play for 5 minutes. But play with your dog. How many of you, put it in the chat box, how many of you play with your dogs every day? Maybe 5 minutes. I don't want a lot of play. 5 minutes. Quality time is better than quantity. Play with your dog. It's the best way to build a relationship. Now we're going to a slightly bigger topic, but for a lot of you who have fear issues, who have aggression issues, all of that, I want to teach you something called a conditioned emotion response. It's a bit of a high level training, and I think this batch is ready for that, so we'll do it. And it falls into the category of something called classical conditioning. Now, if you've studied psychology, this will all be familiar to you. Okay. The term classical conditioning, the technical definition is the pairing of a conditional and an unconditional stimulus to a particular response. What does that mean? It basically means take something that has no meaning, take something that has a meaning, combine the two. And as you combine the two, what you'll realize is the neutral stimulus takes on the meaning of the other one. It's basically repeating two things at the same time and doing it again and again and again till the two become paired. I would say the most popular example of this was an experiment carried out by Pavlov, and his experiment showed this, right? He used to have dogs in a kennel. He used to do some work with them. And what he did is every day before he fed the dogs, he would ring a bell. And all he did, so understand this, the bell has no meaning whatsoever, right? It's just a sound. But the food has meaning, right? Dogs like that. And here's what happens. He would ring the bell, give the food, ring the bell, give the food, ring the bell, give the food, ring the bell, give the food. Eventually, when the two become paired, right, through repetition. Eventually, when he rang the bell, the food and the bell had kind of in the dog's mind become one. And when he rang the bell, what happened is the dog started to salivate. And we would typically say, the conditioning has been done. Conditioning basically means pairing the two things. I'm going to give you lots of examples because if you've understood this, then you're sorted out in doing a lot of behavior work because you learn something called operant conditioning as well. But classical conditioning is really the method of choice that I use, partly because what we've learned is once this pairing is done, once this joining is done, this uniting is done, it kind of stays for a lifetime. Isn't that awesome in the world of dog training? That means once you've trained it and it's conditioned, you don't have to go back and repeat it. You don't have to go back and rework it. You don't have to go back to retrain the dog. It'll just stay in the head for a lifetime. Let me give you some more examples of this. Okay, everybody here who has a dog knows that if you have a packet of biscuits at home or a biscuit tin, or you have a crinkly wrapper, right? However fast asleep your dog is, you pick up that biscuit tin or you crinkle that packet, your dog's going to wake up and come running. Now understand this, a biscuit box, no meaning to the dog. What's the meaning? It's just a box. Pair it or combine it with biscuits, the two eventually become one. Right? If every time I picked up the box, gave my dog a biscuit, picked up the box, gave my dog a biscuit, picked up the box, gave the dog a biscuit, what do you think she's going to learn next time I pick up the box? Her brain is automatically going to say, biscuit. And that's how it works. Classical conditioning. When you first brought your dog home, the leash to your dog had no meaning, neutral. It's a piece of rope. But you put on the leash and go for a walk. You'll soon see that the walk becomes paired with the leash. Now, if your dog likes walks, you'll see the dog becoming happy. If your dog doesn't like walks, when you pick up the leash, he'll go hide under the bed. So when we say classical conditioning happens, we typically don't say necessarily it's a happy experience. Any experience, and we'll talk about the senses, the five senses, they get paired to the neutral stimulus, and that's how it works. Let's give you an example now. Supposing, I think most of you are young, but let's talk about a little younger days. Supposing there was a song, you kept hearing that song and you loved that song and it reminded you of a beautiful place or a person, and then that whole thing died out and you moved on in life. If I played that song today, how many of you would just go into that state like, oh, yeah, it just triggers you? A lot of memories we say are classically conditioned stimuluses, right? You've been conditioned. How about now the smell of a beach? How many of you immediately go, ah? Okay. For those of you staying in Bombay, this morning is quite a nice, wonderfully rainy, clouded morning. For how many of you now today, if I was to say it's a rainy morning, typically what do we do in Bombay? A hot cup of tea and maybe some hot bhajias. How many of you would go, ah, that means you're classically conditioned. See, you don't realize it. Remember in school, when we were in school, that bell that told us school is ended for the day, we were classically conditioned. You hear it, you get really happy. Classical conditioning. It's very powerful, partly because once your brain is conditioned, you can't uncondition it. It stays for a lifetime. Okay, now many of your dogs, unfortunately, could have been conditioned to things that you don't want them to. How about a hospital? How many of you say, when I say the word hospital, how many of you go, ugh? I don't think anybody likes a hospital other than doctors, if you really think about it, right? Nobody else is happy to enter a hospital. Everybody enters sad. So if I was to tell you, now I'm coming to your house and spraying the smell of a hospital, how many of you instinctively will go, oh, God, no. That means you've been in a hospital and you've been classically conditioned. Think about it. That is what classical conditioning is. Now, this is one of my students on one of our trainer courses. We use classical conditioning for a lot of work, okay? And one of the things we use it for is to do training. If you want to teach a dog a command, one of the fastest ways to do it is to make the dog do the behavior and say the word at the same time. Do the behavior, say the word. Do the behavior, say the word. Say the word, do the behavior. The two become paired. It's a simple, it's just the most easy way to teach a dog anything. So on the course, the students learn something called a hearing dog command. What is a hearing dog command? It's basically people who are hearing impaired, people who can't hear. Dogs are trained to help them be their ears. So if the person can't hear and the phone rings, the dog can come to alert them. So just as a fun training on the course, what we do is, here what she's doing with the dog is she's ringing the phone and she's telling the dog, when the phone rings, give me a paw. Okay, eventually what would happen is, wherever the phone is in the house, if the dog hears it ringing, they come and give the person a paw, kind of telling them, hey, your phone's alerting you, go get it. Got it? So this is how we do it. Take a look at it.
Good job.
Okay, I'll play it again so you see it a couple of times.
Good job.
Okay, so here's what she's doing. I'll explain it and play it again. The sound of the phone ring has no meaning to the dog. Remember, it's a neutral stimulus. It's just a sound. The paw command is a rewarded behavior. The dog likes it. Now, all she's doing is phone ring, ask for the paw, give a reward. Phone ring, ask for the paw, reward. Phone ring, paw, reward. Phone ring, paw, reward. The two become paired. Eventually, when the dog hears the ring, he will give the paw and she doesn't need to say or do anything. Okay, classical conditioning.
Good job.
Got it? That's how we use classical conditioning. Next, more examples, because if you get this, a lot of the behavior work you want to do with your dog will be easy for you to understand. How many of you would say the smell of bread? I love the smell of bread. When I was young, I used to sometimes stay at my uncle and aunt's home when my parents traveled. And every evening, my uncle would drive down to the local bakery and we'd buy fresh bread. It was a lovely memory because I loved that drive and that smell of the bakery, the bread, I loved it. So for me, baking bread, happy memories. Think about it. Certain sights, sounds, smells, taste, touch triggered something in us. How many of you are scared of needles? I would say then you're classically conditioned to being frightened around needles. Think about it. If you eat bad food, you fall sick, and you puke it out, your body classically conditions you. You know that bitter taste of that food coming with the taste of the food? The two get paired, and then your brain kind of says, I don't want that food again. And this is your body's way of ensuring if you ate something that was horrible for you to eat, was a poison, you shouldn't touch it again. Next, TV commercials. The clever ones classically condition you. Think about it. Okay? So child sees a kid playing and it makes the child connected and happy, and eventually the child wants that toy because that same emotion gets evoked. Classical conditioning works on a lot of our emotional states. Okay, there's another example. A child sees a mouse, neutral response. It doesn't know what it is. A loud noise is something unpleasant. Pair the loud noise with the mouse, pair the loud noise with the mouse, and eventually for the child, when they see the mouse, the same response as the loud noise will come. Classical conditioning. If you've understood it, that's great. If you want me to give you more examples for later, please put it in the chat box. Say, I didn't get classical conditioning, need more help. I'm happy to help you later. Okay, let's do this topic and then we'll pause for the day. Now we look at the other learning that a dog does, operant conditioning. All our dog training methods kind of come into this. This is an association the dog makes between a stimulus or a command. Then there's a response and then there's a consequence, right? Now, in the world of training, the stimulus is anything that starts a behavior. So how about if I say, sit to my dog? Now, with operant conditioning, she can choose. She can choose to sit. She can choose not to sit. But what we typically say in the world of dogs and training, we control consequences. We control the outcome, right? In case the dog sits, the outcome will be good. I'll give her a treat and I'll give her a pat. In case she doesn't sit, I might scold her. I might say, what are you doing? I wanted the sit. By controlling consequences, we can change the dog's response. Operant conditioning is what literally we all do day to day, right? You say something to the dog chooses a response. Based on that, there has to be what we call as a consequence. How many of your dogs face a consequence? Think about it. For a lot of your dogs that don't listen to you, some of you might say, my dog doesn't really listen. Think about this pattern. Was there a consequence? Now, a consequence can either strengthen the response, weaken a response, or make it stick, keep it where it is, keep it stagnant. We control consequences. We make sure when a dog does something, it is something good, something maybe negative, or maybe as is, where is. Operant conditioning. A lot of your dog training comes into this. Let me give you one more example. Say the stimulus or the trigger or a command could be, say I have guests who come home and they don't like dogs. So I take my dog and I put her in the bedroom. That is the stimulus, the trigger, something that starts a behavior. The response is like a behavior. She doesn't want to be locked in the bedroom. So what she does is she starts barking. So her response is to bark, 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 bark. I don't want her to bark, right? So now I want you all to answer in the chat box. If she barked and I went to the door, I opened it and I say, shoo, be quiet. And I shut the door and I come back out and sit. What do you think is going to happen to the barking behavior, which is the response? Have I rewarded it? Most of you would say yes, right? You gave her attention. That's what she wanted. Every time she barks, you go open the door, you talk to her. What is going to happen to the barking? It's going to increase. I don't want it to increase. So one of the things I might do is when she starts barking, without saying a word, I'd stand outside the door. And with the flat of my hand, every time she makes a noise, I'm going to bang on the door. Every time she opens her mouth, I'm going to bang. See, the consequences are changing. The first consequence, I was giving her attention. Now, the next consequence, because I want to change the behavior, is every time she opens her mouth, there's a loud sound. Every time she opens her mouth, there's a loud sound. And we keep doing that. What is she going to say? Every time I open my mouth, the door makes a sound. See, it's not connected to me, right? She doesn't know I made the sound. She still thinks I'm the nicest person in the world. She says this door makes this awful sound every time I open my mouth. So the consequence is you bark and the door makes a sound. And she doesn't like that. So eventually the barking behavior will come down. So see how we use the principles of operant conditioning when we work with dogs. So it's really between two, classical and operant. Through the day, from the minute whether you wake up or your dog wakes up, you don't realize you are being operant conditioned or classically conditioned, and so is your dog. Very often the environment conditions us to all of this. Okay, so on that note, we're going to just pause for now. Okay. And if you have any questions up to now on all of this, please feel free to ask. I'll see the chat box later, but if you have anything relevant to this, just put it, copy paste your question again. And I will,
Shirin,
yes,
I I have a question related to operant conditioning. So every time my pup chews the carpet, I think I'm reinforcing the behavior by going and saying, "Don't do it," because they
right,
want attention. So
correct.
what's the right way to handle when you're in the room and they're doing something you don't want them to do?
Okay, so when we work, as we go forward on the course, you'll understand one thing. We always work on something called the root cause of a behavior. Now, to get to the root cause, we need to keep asking why to the dog. So let me ask you these questions, and to the best of whatever knowledge you have about your dogs, you give me these answers, okay? And this is an important exercise for all of you to do with yourselves and your dogs. First question to you, Gayatri, okay? For your dog, this would be, why are you chewing what you're chewing?
I
Just think of an answer that your dog would say.
I'm doing it because I want your attention, and I
Got it.
enjoy doing this because I have all this energy that I'm getting out by chewing your Persians carpets.
If you have Persian carpets, please do not leave them out with chewing dogs.
Now the damage is done, so now I
Okay.
need to
Okay.
help them understand.
So this is how y'all are going to work. Okay. This is what I teach my students as well. We do this exercise called the 6 whys. I believe it's also a corporate exercise. Okay. Keep asking why till we get down. Right. So I asked her a why, and answers I got, I've written them down. I do it to get attention and because I want to release energy. Okay. Is that right?
Correct.
Correct. Now, next why based on the answer. Why do you want so much attention from me?
Because you're never home, and when you're home, you're distracted doing different things. And you do play with me, but not all the time. So I do this when I
Okay.
want to get your attention.
Okay. And because you said energy as well, why do you have so much energy?
But I'm 6 months old, and I just am this growing puppy, and I do go down 5 times a day, but maybe that's not enough.
Got it. So you see the answers we're getting? Next. Now, the answer was you're never at home. Okay, and I want your attention. And next is I'm just a young puppy. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. The next why to that is I can't ask why you're never at home. If you are, you can't tell people, hey, leave your jobs and stay at home with the dog. That's not viable. So you're never at home and the puppy wants your attention and the puppy has too much energy because it's a young puppy, probably not getting enough mental stimulation. Tell me at any point, am I right or wrong?
Yeah,
Yeah, right?
I'm
So
correct.
see how we're going further down. Keep going. It's like keep digging till you hit the root of the problem. Keep digging. That's what I'm doing. So basically, what I understand is you have a 6-month-old puppy, and a puppy at that age is going to be needing mental stimulation. Walks are not mental stimulation at all. Your puppy is bored. And obviously, when you get home, he does want to interact with you. Maybe you're too tired. So he's learned over a period of time to do naughty things to get your attention. So here's what you're going to do. This is how I would still maybe dig further, but with this much answer, I would say is first give your puppy a schedule. So what you do, Gayatri, sit with me later and send me a dog's schedule for the day. Okay. From the
Okay,
time the dog wakes up to the time the dog goes to bed at night, what does your dog do? I want to know. I want to know what is meal time. I want to know how much the dog eats, what he's eating. I want to know when he goes for a walk, who takes him for a walk. Does he come up from the walk tired or full of energy? I want all these answers. I want to know when he sleeps. I want to know when he plays, and I want to know when he is destructive. So the only way, guys, you're going to work through this is knowing these answers. And then I'm going to teach you how to work with that schedule. You never work against it. You work with that schedule.
got it.
Okay. And through that, in a week, your Persian carpets should hopefully not end up being chewed a bit more.
Okay,
A week's
thank
time
you.
to work on it. Okay. So, guys, this is how we work. I'm teaching all of you that whether you're going to do this professionally or it's just for your own dog, start thinking along different lines. In 2 weeks, I want the way you think to completely change when it comes to dogs. Okay, so this is how we'd work. Ask the 6 whys. Keep going. Why, till you can't do any more whys. Then the last answer is the part you would work on. That's what I'm going to work on. Don't work on the symptoms, work on the root cause. If you want a lasting solution, it's got to be the root cause you work on.
Hey, Shirin.
Hi.
This is Soumya. I know we are at time, but can I just take a minute more?
Of course.
So, Shirin, I had a question. So, for example, if my dog, and this is a very indie specific issue that I have because it worked very well with my retriever when I was training her back when she was a
Yeah.
pup. But if we are out in the garden and she picks up something, or even at home, if she picks up something, I say no, she drops it. And so when I was training her at home, I said no, and then I would treat her for not picking that up. But now what my indie has learned over that course, she comes running to me for a treat. If I give her the treat or I don't give her treat, she'll go back. So I think it is a classical conditioning.
You
The word
might have
no.
also done operant where, interestingly, guys, we end up sometimes rewarding behaviors we don't want, right? And if it's an indie, she's going to be super smart to know the way I get the treat is by picking up the wrong stuff.
Yeah,
Then she'll call me and give me the treat in exchange.
correct.
So with operant conditioning, you have to be careful because sometimes the dog is training you. There is a way around it, and we can work through that as well. Okay, send me
Yeah,
more details on WhatsApp and we'll do these solutions.
done.
Okay.
Fine.
For the
Thank you.
our learning for today is done. We're doing some Q&A. So if you're getting late, guys, please feel free to drop. I will try. I'll be a very good person to try and end by 9, but sometimes we do go over time. Just telling you all. Any more queries or can we end here for today? Remember, we have the WhatsApp group. Stay in touch with me there as well. Okay, I think we're done. Nobody else. So hope you enjoyed today's first class. Like I said, the recording will be put up and I'll share it with you on the WhatsApp group as well. Okay, so I'll see you guys back tomorrow morning. Have a nice day, all of you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Welcome. Bye, guys.